Okay, just want to talk through how we're going to hook this up. Number one, when we lower this onto the ball, this needs to be up. If it's down like that, it's not going to allow it to seat on the ball. So this needs to be held up far. We crank this counterclockwise over top of the ball. You can feel it start to seat. And I recommend cranking this all the way up so that you don't go over a bump and tear this up. So get it all the way up and out of the way. Next thing, this happens sometimes where this doesn't seat properly. This is not seated properly. And so what I'm going to do is move the truck slightly forward, which will allow this to seat properly. I'll show you that in a second. Okay, you may have heard it snap in there. Now that is seated properly. And then this pin goes in there like that. Now that's safe at this point. This is all the way cranked up. The next thing that I do is I take the boards with me. You never know when you might need to take this down, so always take those with you. Next thing, we hook the power cord in. Now the power cord has a lip on that. And so this needs to go in. There's a receiver, a lip on there, and this has to slide in far enough and that won't come out if it's installed properly. If it's not on the lip, it'll fall right out. So we push it in, make sure that it's done. Depending on your hookup, you want to make sure this does not touch the ground. If your hookup's closer, you may have to clip that in there, and that's okay. Bottom line is we don't want this scratching the ground. Mine is fine because it won't touch the ground, so I don't need to do that. Next thing is the chains. We take left to right, hook it in forward, right to left, hook it in forward. Now my connection, again, does not allow these to touch. If your connection is closer and these touch the ground, then what you do is you twist it until it allows that to be pulled up and then hook it in. Last is the brake cable. Now the brake cable we need to hook, and I just hook it right in here and just snap it right in there. It needs to hook to something. This is in case of an emergency and this part comes away. This will pull the brake and stop it. Now this is torn very easily. As you can see, this would rub on the ground. So you need to put it somewhere where it won't go on the ground. All right, next thing, I'm going to walk around and show you where the registration is. Hopefully you won't need this. There's two locks on this door, and when I lock it, I'll show you what we need to do. Registration is right inside there. When we close the door, this is the door lock. But for safety reasons, we want to make sure we throw this bolt. That will keep that door from coming unlocked. So I'm going to lock this one and throw the bolt. Next thing we always want to do is we want to walk completely around the vehicle. We want to check several things. Number one is tires. Now my truck is not on, so the lights aren't on. If it was on, the lights would be on, and I'd make sure that the lights were on. Walk completely around, and then I'm ready to haul. So I'm going to show you one more thing. I'm not going to go through the entire disconnect, but when you crank this off of the lift, that you must make sure that this is lifted up far enough. Otherwise it grabs the ball and you lift the whole vehicle. So we want to make sure that this is lifted high. Always make sure you're not pinching the cable when you crank up. That's an easy thing to do. And I always hold this and hold pressure so that it stays open while I crank this. There, see it dropped now, and we're good to go. Crank it up high enough that you have complete clearance before you pull away. And then one more thing. Install the lock, which once I pull this away, that lock tucks under there, closes, and locks with the key.